All right, let's get started. We're talking about finance, and we're going to talk about personal and business finance tonight. All right, the first question we're looking at is personal finance, and here we have a pay slip for a Mr. Rajesh Gowda. All right, something that you guys are all going to get one day is a pay slip, and we're going to answer some questions on this pay slip, and then we're going to move on to some business finance. So first thing we know is this is the name of the company that this person works for. So, whoopsie. Mr. Gowda works for an electronics and security company. Okay. And there are all the details of the company in the top left corner there. And then here we have the employee details here in this row. And there is the number of days that this person was paid for, 30 days. And we see it's the 48th pay slip for this person here. All right. Then we have two columns. On the left, we have the earnings or the income, and on the right we have the expenses or the deductions. All right, so usually on the left you have what's coming in, and on the right what's going out on the pay slip. All right, so let's have a look at what's coming in on the earnings side. We have a basic salary here in this row of 10,000 Rand, and then the next two rows are the overtime hours, and that gives you an overtime pay there in that row, and then we give you a total income or total salary of 13,750. Okay, on the right-hand side, the deductions, what's going out? We have a salary advance. Now, what that means is this person has asked for 1,000 Rand of their salary before payday. So you can, some businesses and companies do this. You can ask for an advance, and then they will take it off your salary when you get your salary on the 30th or the 25th or whenever you get paid. So the salary advance is money that was borrowed before payday and now needs to be paid back. Then you get PAYE. Can someone tell me what does PAYE stand for? Anybody out there? You guys should all know. What does PAYE stand for? Anybody?
Somebody.
Somebody. Pay as you earn. Good. Very good. Pay as you earn. So that is income tax. Okay. PAYE, yes, is the income tax. Tax you pay on your income. So you pay tax as you earn. All right. So PAYE stands for pay as you earn. What does URF stand for? Anybody? URF in the third line here. What does that stand for?
It can't be crickets. It's just three words. Yes, thank you.
There we go. Well done, well done, well done, well done, well done. Good job. Yes, I know you guys know it. Well done, well done. Unemployment Insurance Fund. Okay, so UIF gets paid by everyone. In fact, you guys are so clever. You know what this is. Who can come online and give a brief explanation of what UIF and how it's paid? I know you guys know this. Someone online, come tell us what is UIF and how is it paid? Anybody out there? Raise your hand. There we go.
Emmanuel.
Oh, Emmanuel, sorry. Yes, Emmanuel, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. And how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you very much. Young man, what does URF stand for? Oh, you know what it stands for. Sorry. What is it?
Stands for Unemployment Insurance Fund, and what it aims to do is really okay. This is the best way I can put it. It's really to alleviate pressure on people when they going through tough times. Say, for example, you're in a hospital and now you can't get back to work for a few days. You can extract money from the UIF. So basically, it's really about they take a portion of your income monthly or weekly, and they put it into a separate account for such times when you're going to need it and you don't have money.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it's for. And it's very useful. For example, when you have a child, the mom has to stay home for a couple of months to look after the child. And that's when the mom can apply to the UIF for some money while she's at home looking after the baby for those first couple of months. All right, that's an example as well.
You can also say perhaps you have to go bury someone, or you have some family issues and you have to be off work for a few days and you're not going to be paid for those days. So you can actually claim the UIF if you go to such important things you have to attend to.
Yeah, there's circumstances where you cannot work and it's not out of your control, and you cannot work you can claim to the UIF. Now, yeah, so if you don't have work, but the unemployed, now that word unemployed doesn't necessarily mean like you've lost the job. You can still be at the same job, but not working or not earning a salary at that job for a portion of time. So,
So I think it's about being retrenched.
yeah, so retrenched means you're going to lose that job and you won't come back. But for example, moms that when babies are
Oh,
born, they can
oh,
be away from work for like 3 or 4 months and go back to the same job. And for that period that they were not earning a salary, they can apply to UIF. So if you've lost your job, retrenched, or the company that you worked for goes bankrupt, and for some reason you can't work there for a couple of months, you can apply to the UIF. So if you are unemployed, when they say unemployed, not earning a salary is a better way to describe it. If you're not earning a salary and you were paying UIF, now you can actually apply to the UIF to help you with your salary. So so that's why I wrote just salary insurance. It insures your salary. You don't always get the full amount. There's a calculation that they do, so you don't always get your full salary, but you can get something back out. Emmanuel, you still there? He's gone. All right.
yes, sir.
Okay, Manuel, can you tell me how do they calculate UIF?
If I'm not mistaken, they take 10% of your salary.
Just 1%, small
Oh,
little portion.
I've, I've,
Just
I,
just
I thought
1%.
of being generous and add the zero
Yeah,
onto it.
yeah.
Yes,
Geez, I hope they don't take
1%.
10%. Crumbs, it's a lot of money. Um, they take 1%. All right. So we see here on the salary slip that the employer has taken 1% of your salary and paid it for you. So there's two payments. There's the employer portion and the employee. All right. The employer will pay 1% of your salary, and you have to pay 1% of your salary. So if your salary here is 13,750, you have to take 1% of that and pay it to UIF. The employer will match that. All right. So the employer matches that 1% with another 1%. So the UIF gets a percent from you and your employer. All right. And that gets sent through. So it's actually 2% of an amount. But for you, when you see your pay slip, you will only see 1% leaving from your pay. The employer will match that with another, the exact same value. All right. So it's actually 2, but you only see 1 on your pay slip. Okay. And everyone pays this. Everyone has to pay. It's a good thing. It's a good idea. All right. So that's UIF. Okay. You will always see UIF on a salary. Let's have a look at the questions. So question number 1, what is the difference between an employer and an employee? All right. I'm going to do this one. So an employer is the one with the job, and he will employ an employee. All right. The employer owns the job and will employ an employee, and the employee will work for the employer. All right. And you'll have to write that out in words in the exam to get all your marks. Funny enough, in this exam, this is a provincial paper, or I think it's a national paper. They gave 4 marks for this, so 2 marks for each point that you make. The employer is the one that has the job and employs the employee to work for him in that job. All right. So as long as your sentence makes sense, you'll get all 4 marks for that. Easy money. All right. Let's go on to number 2 here. Number 2 says calculate the value of A, the total deductions. All right. So if you look at the pay slip, we see A here at the bottom. All right. They want you to work out what is that total. Okay. So get your calculators out. Time for you to do some work. Give you 1 or 2 minutes to work out what is the value at A. The total deductions is only on this right-hand side here, this right-hand column. Quickly calculate that and then just put it in chat and tell us when you're done, and we can move on to the next question. All right, good. We're getting some answers coming in. Very good. Emmanuel.
So
Yeah.
I just noticed something.
Hmm.
This was in my term 2 exam.
This exact question.
This exact question and this exact slip, like this pay slip, that exact one.
Yeah, they get reused, these questions. If someone creates a really good question,
Mm,
not usually the national paper, but schools or provinces or clusters,
yes,
they often will snip that question out, maybe hopefully change it, but sometimes they don't. They put it in straight as just like it is, or they'll put the payslip in and then they'll ask their own questions.
yes, sir.
Yeah, no, you often find that, especially grade 11. Matric is a different story. They will not reuse stuff. But in grade 11, yeah, it does often happen. Cluster level, provincial level. If they find a good contextual question like the salary slip, they will use it. Maybe ask their own questions. But you often see that 242750. All right, like you all said, 242750. We need to add them up. So that is the total deductions there. All right, excellent. Nice and easy. 2 marks in the bag as well. Very good. Next one, question 3. Show, there's that word again, show, prove, by calculation, how the overtime pay of 3750 was calculated. So we're talking about overtime payments. We need to show how it was calculated. So if I go up to the top here, show how this value that I'm highlighting in blue is calculated. That's the overtime payments. Show how it's calculated. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, how do we do it? I know it's 3750, so don't put the answer of 3750 in chat. How do we do it? How do we work that out? Someone's watching soccer. Oh dear. Someone's watching soccer. All right, so show 3750. What math do we do? Yes, come on now. You guys know. Well done, Kian. Good. So we see the person worked 50 overtime hours there. We can see the 50 for overtime hours over here. And then we see the rate is 75 Rand per hour. So it's 50 hours. The rate is 75 Rand per hour. So we multiply those together and you will get 3750. So you just have to write that calculation out. Well done. Well done, Kian. Good job. That's how we do it. Take the hours worked and the rate per hour and multiply them together. Nice and easy. Money in the bag. All right. Okay, so just say 50 times 75 Rand equals 3750. All right, next term. Sorry, next question. Define the term net pay according to this context. What is net pay? Where do we see net pay? We see it at the bottom. What is net pay? Who can tell me what is net pay?
So
Yes, Emmanuel.
it's still quite fresh in my head. What I
Yeah,
wrote is net pay is the total salary the person gets after deductions have been made.
very good. So the total after deductions, your salary, careful, it's after deductions. So we get gross, all right? So we have, let me draw a little diagram here. We have the gross pay, all right? So let's say the stack of money that you have is one big column, all right? And then that's your gross. I'm going to write it here with a black pen. Okay. And then they will come and they'll take a piece of that off. All right. So now your stack is a little bit smaller. All right. So this piece that they took off here at the top are your deductions. Okay. So this blue section here are your deductions. And what's left behind is net. All right. So gross is everything. Then they take a piece off for deductions. And what's left behind is net. All right. So the gross we can see here is 13,750, and we know that our total deductions, I'll write it over here, is 242750. So the 13,750 minus the 242750 should give us 11,322 and 50 cents. All right, so net is your total after deductions. Okay, so net after deductions are taken off. Let's check that. Let's check that they've calculated it correctly. If this was my salary, I'd want to make sure. So 13,750, which is gross, minus deductions, which is 242750, should give us net. There we go. Yeah, it's the same. All right. So gross minus deductions leaves you with net. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. There we go. All right, number 5. Calculate the PAYE. Here's this question number 5. Calculate the PAYE amount as a percentage of the total payment amount. All right, round off your answer to the nearest percentage. So round off to the nearest percentage. Okay, now I'm going to take all of this and move it up so we can look at it over here. All right, let me just remove this and I'll bring this question up here so you can see the question and the information. There we go. So calculate the PAYE as a percentage of the total payment amount. Round off your answer to the nearest percentage. So when we need two values here. All right. And I'm going to highlight PAYE in yellow. All right, and that's over here in yellow on my payslip. And the total payment amount I'm going to highlight in blue on the payslip. So we need those two values here. And we need to work out this yellow one as a percentage of the blue one. All right, calculate PAYE as a percentage of the total payment, which is blue. All right, I'll give you guys a minute to do that. Ooh, you guys are fast already. Oh, Tanda, welcome. Kian's got a percentage there already. We need the nearest whole percentage. And I see Kian's got no decimals. Welcome, Tanda. So it looks pretty good. Anyone else? Let's wait for some more answers coming through. Everyone should be trying this. Very basic calculation of math literacy is to work out a percentage. Fatima is confirming with hers. Also getting 9. All right, you should all be getting 9. Okay, even Tando's just arrived and he's getting 9 as well. All right, let's check it out. Let's try this one. Okay, so we can do a basic percentage calculation. We're going to put the PAYE on top, 1290, over the 13,750 and times by 100. Okay, and this will be done on the calculator, and I'll use the fraction. So 1290 over 13,750. Whoopsie. 1290 times 100. And let's see what we get. 9,381818. 9,381818%. I'm showing 6 decimals here, but we need to round off to the nearest percentage. So we're looking at this number, the 9. All right. And will it change? Well, the 3 next to it will not change it. So it's going to stay 9%. Well done to you guys. Well done for getting that 9. Excellent. Good job. Now, simple calculation of math literacy often comes up. That if you have two numbers, you can always ask a percentage. All right. Good job. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Number 6, state one benefit of contributing towards UIF. We discussed that already. All right. If you're unemployed, you can claim UIF to help replace a salary. All right. So you can claim to UIF as insurance to help you if you don't earn a salary anymore. That's the whole point of UIF. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next scenario. Now we're moving away from personal finance, and we're going to look at some business finance. Now, when we talk business finance, we're talking about income versus expenses in a business. And there's always 3 parts to this: a table, an equation, and a graph. All right. A table, an equation, and a graph for any of these scenarios. Just remember that. Okay, so here we go with the first one. Miss Farsi started a small business by selling pies at school and factories close to her workplace. She pays a rent of 1,500 per month, and it costs her 5 Rand to make and package a pie. She sells the pie at 15 Rand each. Now, there's all the information we need in that text there. Okay, so firstly, this line here, she pays rent of 1,500 per month, and it costs her 5 Rand per pie to make. That's obviously the expenses. Now, I want to ask you, the 1,500 Rand per month, is that a fixed or a variable expense? The 1,500 Rand for rent, is that fixed or variable? Rent of 1,500, fixed or variable? Yes, well done. Good job. Well done. You guys know. So rent is fixed. Okay. So that I'll put a V here, not a V, an F, which means the cost per pie is the variable cost. Okay. Because that varies according to how many pies she makes. Rent, no matter if she makes 0 pies or 1,000 pies, has to be paid every month. But the cost to make each pie, the 5 Rand, will vary depending on how many pies she makes. All right. So the rent is fixed and the cost for each pie is variable. All right. And then obviously the 15 Rand that she sells them at, that is the income. Okay. And then the table below summarizes what if she sold 0, 50, 100, 150, 250, or 350 pies. And you know what I like? I like that they've put a very strange difference between these two numbers. Because you guys, I know what you do. You look at from 0 to 50. Oh, that's a jump of 50, another jump of 50, another jump of 50. That's a jump of 100. So the last two don't go up in 50s. Because what guys will do is they'll try and follow a pattern to fill in missing values if there are any missing values. Please be careful of that. Okay. All right. So there's a table for total costs. I'm going to highlight that in blue like we did in the text. And then the green is the income. Okay. The following formula are used to calculate the cost and the income respectively. Now, these formulae or equations that we see here, one for cost and one for income, you should be able to build these yourself. That is often a question in an exam, to build these equations. All right. Now, they have called the pies, I don't know why they used N, but they said N is pies. I would have used a P. All right, personally. N represents the number of pies. Okay, so the equation can be built with a variable. Don't be scared of the variable. It's just representing the number of pies we have. Let's look at question number 1. Use the table to determine Mrs. Fussie's break-even amount. They go straight to the point with this first question. Break-even. Who can tell me what break-even is? I need someone to come online and tell me what is this business term, break-even. Yes, Keon, you are right.
Yes, Keon, you are right.
Anybody?
Hi, sir.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, and you?
Good, thanks.
Good, thanks.
Break-even point is where the expenditure and the income are equal.
Good. And what does it mean for
Good.
a business?
And what does it mean for a business?
It means the business is at loss.
If they're the same, then they won't be losing out.
They won't be losing out.
It won't be profit
It
or
won't
loss.
be profit or loss. It'll be
between them.
Between them.
Oh, okay, sir.
Okay, so
Okay,
it
so
means the
it
business
means
isn't
the bus-
losing or making profit. It's when they say it's breaking even, there is no loss or profits. They are equal to each other. Okay, so break-even point is where business's income and expenses match each other. There is no loss or profits. They're just equal to each other. Okay, so it's this point where income equals expenses. All right, and it's an important thing to know because If your expenses are more than your income, you're losing out. If your income is more than your expenses, that's when you're making profit. So you need to know where this break-even point is, because Mrs. Fassi wants to know, when is she going to start making profit? Okay, and the graphs help us with this. So if we had to plot this, I'm not going to, I haven't got a fancy graph here, but if we had to plot these lines, I'm going to do red for expense and blue for income. In fact, let's change the angle of that one. So let's make red like that. That's expense, and the blue one, we're going to start here and we're going to go up like that. So if we had to plot the income and the red one is expense, it would look something like this. And where these two cross each other over here is the break-even point. So sometimes I'll ask you on a graph to point it out, and sometimes I'll do it in a table. But you guys know that at this point here, and you can read off a rand value, we read off the table 2250, the business will break even. Now, what happens is, if you below this, you can see the red line is above the blue line. So left of the break-even point on the graph is this side here, and on the table is this side here. All right. So on the left-hand side of the table is where your expenses are more than your income, and you're going to be making a loss. So I'll write there loss on the graph and loss on the table. On the right-hand side, this is where your income is more than your expenses. And on the table, that's this part over here. Whoopsie. Let's just move this blue line across like this. No. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, it's not even. It's not going to do it. All right, I'm not going to fuss. There we go. Come on. There we go. All right, so the right-hand side of the table is the profit side of the table here. And this part in the middle is the break-even part. So I'll use it for green here. So this green arrow that I've got here is where we are breaking even. So it's very important for a business owner to know where this is, because they want to make sure they're selling more than the number of pies needed to break even. Because if you're going on break even or less, you're not making profit. If you're below break even, you're actually losing out. So finding where the break even point is very important if you're selling products. Okay. This is why we always do this in math literacy. It's a very, very important business exercise. Okay, so the table is telling us, and if it was a graph, they often ask, show on the graph where the break-even point is. When you put an arrow and you label it, it's important to see where the break-even is. Okay, so use the table to determine the break-even amount. So if answering this question, we will just have to write the amount like that. Okay, then number 2, calculate the value of A. So A is in the table. Calculate the value of A in this table here. I'll scroll. In fact, I don't need to scroll up. You got everything you need right there. I'll give you guys 2 minutes to work out what is the value of A in this table. Give you a couple of minutes. What is the value of A in this table? You can quickly work it out. Hey, you guys are fast. Pilates are there. Kian's there. Excellent. All right. Very good. Yes, yes, yes. Good, 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 good. All right. Excellent. Okay. Yes. Well done, Kaklecho. Okay. So what you need to do is work out the cost. A is a cost. Yes, well done. And that means we need to use this equation or formula here, the top one. All right. So A is a cost because it's in the cost row of the table. So we're going to use the cost formula, and the cost will equal 1,500 Rand plus 5 Rand times the number of pies. And for A, the number of pies is 50. Then we just get our calculator out and we do this math. So we're going to say 1500 plus, and you know what I'm like? I always like to use brackets. I'm just like that. And we get 1750. 1750. Okay, well done. So that is the cost. So we're just using the formula that they give us to work out the cost there. I think they're going to ask, yes, show by means of calculation that the value of B is 3750. So they're actually giving it to you and they want you to prove it. Show, the next question, that the value of B is 3750. Now I'm going to hold it there. All right, so you can see the table. Oh, you need to see how many powers, eh? We need to work out B. We need to work out B here. Sure. Pilates very fast. Well done. Okay, good. Very good. All right, so for income, B is in the income row of the table. We need to use this formula here. 15 times N, where N is the number of powers. Yes, good job. All we need to do is say 15 times 250. So we got 250 powers here. We need to say 15 times 250. All right, so the income, this is an income calculation, and it's 15 times 250. And we'll quickly get the calculator to help us with that. So 15 times 250, I said plus. 15 times 250, 3750. All right, nice and easy. So they give us the equations and we can work it out. Very, very, very easy. You just got to know which equation to use when. And the words cost and income will help you with that. Number 4, calculate the profit if 350 powers are sold. All right. So I'm going to, what I'll do is I'll bring that question up. Okay, so just bear with me because you need to see all the stuff. So just hang in there. I'm going to bring this question up for you. Just going to make some space for it. All right, here comes the question. So we can see everything. There we go. Question 4. Calculate the profits if 350 powers are sold. Calculate the profit if 350 powers are sold. 1750. Okay, on saying 1750. All right, so we're looking at this part of the table. All right, and profit is your income minus your expense. Okay, so we need to take the income value, which is 5250 minus 3250. All right, let's see what we get. So 5250 minus 3250. You should all be getting 2000. Yeah, 2000, eh? All right, so we're taking the income, which is the green one here, the 5250, and we're subtracting the expenses or the costs, which is 3250. That will give us a profit. Okay. Now, one thing about profit is we can see in these values that the income is higher than the expense. So we're actually going to be making a profit here. But sometimes it's not that easy to see. So how do you know if you're making profit? Well, when you do this calculation, you'll see on the calculator here that the value is positive. All right. What if the expenses were higher? Let's make that 6250. So you imagine if you try to do this, you take your income, which is 5250, minus your expenses, which is 6250, and you press equals, and you get a little negative sign in front here. Well, that means it's not profit. That means this calculation that you're doing is actually working out the loss. Or you can say, when you see that sign on the calculator, actually they're not making profit, this business is making a loss. So this equation, profit equals income minus expense, can be used to test if you are making a profit or loss. If the answer is positive, you're making profit. If the answer is negative, you're making a loss. Okay, so if they say work out the profit and you get a minus, you're going to say, hold on, we're not making profit, we're actually making a loss here. Okay, but in this case, as we see down here, yes, it is a profit. All right, so it's not a loss. Okay, nice and easy. Let's see. I'm going to move this down and we're going to go and fetch the next question. All right, let's see. In fact, that is it. That's it. Question 4, last one. All right, let's have a look. What else have we got here? There's a new scenario. Last one for the night. New business, Alice. Alice sells food from a kiosk that she rents in a township. The expenses, all right, so picking out the keyword, the expenses associated with the ingredients and labor for a plate amount to, for a plate, so it's the plate of food, amounts to 30 Rand. And the formula for expenses is 500 plus 30 times the number of plates. Okay. Tell me, please, the 500 or the 30, which one is the fixed expense? The 500 Rand or the 30 Rand, which one is the fixed expense? The 500 or the 30 Rand? The 500, very good. Okay, so the 500 must be the fixed expense. We don't know what it is. They haven't told us, but it must be the fixed expense. And the 30 is variable. That depends on the number of plates. She sells food per plate, and the graph below shows her expenses and income for a month. That's all they give us in this text. Then they give us this graph. So they can work the other way now, not showing you equations or tables. They can actually use a graph. So remember I said you usually have a table, an equation, and a graph. Now we're not looking at tables and equations. We're looking at the graph part of a business. Okay, so there we see 2 lines, income and expenses. All right, and then they're going to ask you a whole lot of questions on this. Okay, we see number of plates at the bottom here on the x-axis, and the amounts in rands on the left-hand side, the y-axis. All right, let's see what questions they have. Number 1. Write down the independent variable in the above context. Woo! Nice question. Who can tell me which one is the independent variable? Who can tell me? I need someone to come online and tell me, explain to me. Anybody out there that can explain which one is the independent variable in this scenario? Anybody out there? Oh, it's crickets. No one out there wants to explain which one is dependent or independent. Oh, it's crickets, yeah. There's my man.
We could always rely on Emmanuel.
We always rely on
Always.
Emmanuel. He's he's there to save the day. Emmanuel,
Sir, yes, sir.
which
You asked,
which variable is
yes, sir.
independent?
The independent one is the amount in rands, because the number of plates
So
depends.
so Emmanuel's saying it's either amounts in rands or it's the plates. We just want to figure out which one is which. So one depends on the other.
Yes, sir.
Which
So right, we're looking at the income, meaning the more plates you sell, the more income you have.
good. So does
So
the money you make depend on the number of plates you sell, or does the number of plates you sell depend on the money you make?
the money you make depends on the amount of plates you sell.
Absolutely. So the rand value depends on the number of plates.
So the independent one is the annual in rands, right?
The rands depends on the plate. So
Needs. Yes.
the rands
The
depend.
independent. Oh, there we go. I got it, sir. I got it.
You got it. So the rands depends on the number of plates. The plates don't care about the rands. So the
Yes, sir.
plates are independent. But Emmanuel, I appreciate the fact that you always come online and you're always trying. And you know what? It helps you to remember as well. So good.
A
Well
lot,
done for
sir.
trying. It does.
Thank you,
Well done
sir.
for trying. I appreciate it. You're a brave young man to come online all the time. Thank you very much. All right. So the rand value depends on the number of plates sold, but the number of plates sold doesn't depend on the rand value. So the plates are independent. They don't depend on anything. The rand depends on the plates. So the number of plates is the independent variable. So you have to work out which one depends on which. All right. Number 2, determine the amount Alice pays as a fixed expense. Determine the amount Alice pays as a fixed expense. All right, I'm going to put it up there like that. Determine the amount that Alice pays as a fixed expense. You guys should easily get this. There's the scenario in front of you. Determine the amount that Alice pays as a fixed expense. Yeah, Keon, it's the 500 Rand. The confusing thing about this question, I don't know if you guys might be, yeah. So the confusing thing about this question, I don't know if you were a little bit confused by the way they've put it. They said determine Alice's fixed expense. They used the word determine. Now, when they use the word determine, you can do it by calculation or any way you want. Explanation, calculation, diagram, whatever. Just work it out. Figure it out. All right. Sometimes they'll use the word determine. Sometimes they use the word calculate. Then you have to show calculations. Sometimes they'll use the word state. All right. Or give. Or name. All right. So the instruction in the question is very, very important. Determine is kind of open to interpretation. All right. We saw in the start of the question in the text here that that's actually I referred to it as the 500 Rand there. What is it? And we said that's the fixed expense. But let's say we didn't talk about that. All right. Now, when you see the equation and you see the 500 Rand, you might know straight away that that is the fixed expense. Another way you could work it out, if they didn't give you that 500 Rand, in fact, if they blanked it out, all right, and asked you, what is or how much is the fixed expense in this business? What other way could we find it? If they didn't give it to you in the text, like we discussed, how else could we determine the fixed expense? Who would like to help me with that? Let's give Emmanuel a break. Someone else has got to help. Where's Bianca? Come on, Bianca. I haven't heard Bianca's voice in a long time. Bianca, you there? Bianca Tladla? Oh, yes, Fatima. Yes, Fatima. Looking at the graph. But Fatima, don't you want to come online and tell me, explain to us? For 32, Dina, yes, that'll be the value for 32. If we need 32, is that the next question? We'll check now. Where's Fatima? Check your screen. Don't you want to talk to us and explain? There we go.
So where expenses is,
Yeah.
and then just above 400 is the plotting.
Where that expense line touches the y-axis.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well done, Fatima. Thank you very much. So Fatima's saying where the expense line hits the y-axis there, that value is the fixed expense. Why? Because the fixed expense will be shown when you're not making any plates of food. So if you don't make any plates of food and don't get income from or don't have costs for plates of food, the only other cost you have is the fixed cost, which always gets paid every single time. So if you're not making any food, you just have your fixed expenses. All right. So where do we see on this graph where there's no food being made? Well, we see it over here at the bottom where the number of plates is 0. So if you go to where number of plates is 0 and you go up there, that'll show you what your fixed expense is. So this expense, line will have to start at a certain amount, and that's the 500 Rand is shown on the graph over there. Okay, so where this expense line starts on the y-axis, that is showing you what your fixed expense is. So if they do this in the exam, they take away the fixed expense value in the equation, you can still determine it from the graph. Okay, don't forget that. Try to remember that. But Like we said, we spoke about this in the equation. The 500 Rand is the fixed expense. It's shown right there in the equation. So you just have to write down 500 Rand like you guys did. Okay, very good. Number 3, write down the formula. Oof, you see how students struggle with this. Write down the formula for income if a plate is sold at 50 Rand. In the form, income equals. So we're going to write down an equation. The income will equal what? Who would like to try this one? You can type it in chat if you want. What kind of equation could we put? We're selling plates and they sell at 50 Rand. So what kind of equation for income could we write? Very good, Emmanuel. Very good. So income, and I'm sure you were supposed to put it equal. The income equals the number of plates times 50 Rand. All right. Now, Emmanuel's used the words number of plates. Sorry, number of plates times 50 Rand. I'm sure some of you were thinking of something else. Maybe the words. Maybe some of you might have thought of a variable, N, or maybe P for plates. Okay. But this part here, the words could be, we've seen it as a variable like N, or you could put a P. If you put a P there, that's fine as well. But this is the best way to write it out. Number of plates times 50 Rand. Very good. Okay. Very, very, very good. Well done. 2 more questions and then we're done. In fact, this can be the last one. Determine the profit at the break-even point. N, yes, Tana, you can say N. Dina, okay. So they're saying we need to write a formula to determine income. All right. And they say plates are sold. If you look at the text here, it says work out the income if a plate is sold at 50 Rand. So the money you get into your business, you're going to get it from selling plates. So how can you work out how much income you're going to have? Let's say, for example, on one day you sell 20 plates of food. You know each plate is 50 Rand, so you will say 20 times 50 Rand. That'll determine the income that you get for that day. On another day, it could be 55 plates of food. Then you'll say 55 times 50 Rand, and that's how much income you get. So we're creating a formula or an equation to give to this person to say, use this equation to work out any day you want how much income you're going to get. All you have to do is replace here the words number of plates with however many plates of food you sell that day. So this formula can be used any day you want to. Okay, so this is what they're asking for. Write down a formula that can be used for this person depending on however many plates they sell. Okay. Yes, Kian. This is why I've got this face. Look at this question. Determine the profit at break-even point. Now, if you understand break-even point, makes this question very strange. Because at break-even points, we just discussed it earlier, income equals expenses. Isn't it? It's a trick question. Yes, Tato. 0. They should be the same. So if your income is, say, 500, and then your expenses is 500 at break-even, right? Remember at the table here at the top? We could put a chat at this question. Look at this table here. How much profit has been made here in this table? There is no profit there. The numbers are the same. Yeah, 0. 0. Absolutely. So determine the profit at break-even point. We have to prove this. All right. So what we're going to do is go to the graph, and we're actually going to take a line, not down. We need to go across, and we're going to play their game. We'll do it properly. So if I go across at break-even point there, and I read the value of rands, halfway across there's 1,300. So I would say this is 1,250. All right. So we'll play the game. We know what it is, but we'll play the game, yeah? We know the expenses or income is 1,250. We know the expenses are the same. It's 1,250. You could put any number that's similar like that. I used 500 and 500 as an example, and that will give you a profit of 0. Okay, it's a trick question. All right. We're going to stop. No, in fact, we've got a few more minutes. We're going to do it. Determine the loss when 8 plates are sold. 8 plates are sold. Determine the loss. Okay, so I'm going to explain this one. I'm not going to ask you guys to do it. So we're going to go down to the bottom here and look for 8 plates. There's 5 there. There's 10 there. So I'm going to go 6, 7, 8 should be about there. And I'm going to draw a line up. You have to do this. You have to show on your graph what you're doing. And then for each of these, for income and expenses, you need to go across. So I'm going to do a blue line here for income and go across. And I'm going to do a red line here for expenses and go across. Okay. Like that. And I'm going to read the values off. So this is going to be about 650. And the blue one's going to be 400. All right. So your loss is equal to your income, always the income first, minus your expense. In this case, the income is 400 Rand minus the 650. And that'll be a loss of 250. And why is it a loss? Because we see the negative here. Okay. So always put the income first and then the expense, and you'll see the negative, which means it's a loss. We know it's a loss. It's a loss of 250. But you got to read it off your graph. You got to draw a line up, go across, write the values in, and then show the calculation here. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it a